Okay, so we all know smoking is bad for you, right? It's probably one of the most rock-solid facts in public health. But what if I told you that in some of the most extreme medical situations you can imagine, we're talking catastrophic injuries, chronic diseases, the story gets a whole lot more complicated. And honestly, a lot weirder. So let's dive into this strange and complex world together.
But before we get to the really strange stuff, let's start at the very beginning. It's a pretty fundamental question, isn't it? With everything we know about the dangers, why does anyone, especially a teenager, ever even pick up that first cigarette? What's the psychology behind that first puff?
To answer that, we're going to look at some really fascinating research that came out of Japan. Scientists there basically wanted to draw a causal map to figure out the whole chain of events that leads a young person to light up for the very first time. And what they found is that it's kind of like a perfect storm of factors. It often starts with these internal struggles, what the researchers called self-disgust, which is really just a way of saying low self-esteem and high anxiety. Then you add in what they call an inappropriate home environment, things like poverty or tough family relationships. Mix that with a weakening of social rules against smoking, the mistaken idea that it's a great way to relieve stress, and, just not really knowing the full dangers. And boom, you've got a recipe for a new smoke. But it's not just about what's going on inside someone's head or what's happening at home. There's this massive external force at play here, the relentless marketing machine of the tobacco industry, which has been unbelievably good at selling this habit for decades. And get this effect is shockingly quantifiable. A huge Cochrane review pulled together tons of data and found this incredibly powerful link. For every little step up in what they call advertising receptivity, and that could be something as simple as naming a favorite cigarette ad or wanting a piece of branded merch, the odds of a teen moving to a higher level of smoking shot up by 11%. That's a measurable push toward addiction, and it's all fueled by marketing. Okay, so we've kind of established the why. People start for these complex psychological and social reasons, and advertising just shoves them along. And we all know where that leads: cancer, heart disease, lung disease, the whole terrible list. But now we're going to pivot. We're going to look at a series of findings so counterintuitive, so bizarre, that they've actually been given a special name. And this is where things get really, really weird. So our first stop on this strange journey is the high-stakes world of emergency medicine. Researchers dug into the U.S. National Trauma Databank, this huge database of patient info, fully expecting to confirm that, yep, smokers do worse after severe injuries. But what they found was the exact opposite. I mean, just look at these numbers. The study looked at over 350,000 severely injured patients. In that massive group, the in-hospital death rate for non-smokers was 4.3%. Okay? Now look at the rate for current smokers. It was just 1.8%. That is a staggering, almost unbelievable difference. This phenomenon actually has a name. It's called the smoker's paradox. It was first noticed decades ago by cardiologists who were just scratching their heads because they saw that smokers sometimes had better short-term survival rates right after a heart attack. And now, this massive trauma study shows the same bizarre pattern holds true after a major physical injury. And this isn't some statistical fluke. No way. After the researchers adjusted for everything you can think of, age, how bad the injury was, gender, other health problems, they calculated the final odds. The number they came up with was 0.15. To put that in simple terms, it means the smoker's odds of dying in the hospital were 85% lower. I mean, let that sink in. An absolutely shocking statistic that has just left researchers baffled. And the paradox doesn't stop with trauma. Not even close. Now we're going to shift gears to a completely different area of medicine: chronic gut inflammation. And what we find there is just as strange. Right, so this is another one that just seems to fly in the face of all logic. Ulcerative colitis, or UC, is this painful, chronic inflammatory disease of the colon that can just make life miserable. And yet, for reasons scientists are still figuring out, current smokers have a consistently, significantly lower risk of ever getting it in the first place. So what on earth is going on? Well, scientists think the key isn't the thousands of chemicals in tobacco smoke, but one in particular: nicotine. It seems like it interacts directly with immune cells in the gut, and it basically turns down the volume on that out-of-control inflammatory response that causes the disease. So let's break that down. Nicotine seems to be doing a few things all at once. It dials back the chemical signals that are screaming attack, while at the same time it boosts the signals that are saying, hey, calm down. It also seems to block this critical molecular machine called the inflammasome. Think of it like a fire alarm for the immune system. And it might even change the community of bacteria living in the gut for the better. It's like this multi-pronged attack against inflammation.
So, all of this leaves us with a really profound and honestly a deeply uncomfortable dilemma. We've got this product that is, without a doubt, a public health poison on a global scale. And yet, hidden inside its chemistry are these fascinating clues about how our own bodies work. Clues that might just point the way to entirely new kinds of medicine. It's a true paradox.
Okay, so let's circle all the way back to that trauma paradox. How could nicotine possibly help someone survive a catastrophic injury? Well, researchers have three main theories. First, it makes your blood platelets stickier, which could theoretically help you form clots faster and control bleeding. It's like a natural bandage. Second, it constricts blood vessels, which might help keep your blood pressure up if you've lost a lot of blood, kind of like tightening a hose to increase the pressure. And third, just like we saw in the gut, nicotine has these powerful anti-inflammatory effects that could tamp down that dangerous second wave of inflammation that often kills patients days later. Now, let me be crystal clear here. This does not mean smoking is good for you. What it means is that nicotine is a really complex, dirty drug, and by understanding its hidden effects, we might be able to create new, targeted, and much, much safer medicine. Which brings us to our final, and maybe the most important question of all. The smoker's paradox presents this massive scientific challenge. It forces us to ask, if one of the world's deadliest habits also contains the chemical blueprints for future therapies, how do we carefully untangle that potential from the undeniable poison? How do we find the medicine in the smoke without promoting the danger? That is the paradox we're left to solve, and finding the answer could change medicine forever.